All right, check Mavs fans. Yeah, they're good. But the Boston Celtics look great to bring it full circle. And it's so disappointing for Mavs fans because the first game, it was KP who just went off and nobody expected it coming off, a month, of being on the sideline because of the injury. And then he has a 7-minute spurt in like the first quarter of game one where he's the best player on the planet and just goes off and adds that to the Boston Celtics already loaded roster. And then they of course, they go along to win that game 107-89. And the Mavs, as you've talked about and we've talked about all playoffs, they never got it to clutch time. And that's what the fight for them was to try to get it to clutch time. And this game is Drew Holiday, that guy who plays the game of his life, scored a team high 26 points. He was 11 of 14. And who was, and how about this? Didn't have a turnover.
Yeah, didn't have a turnover.
Had that much usage. Was you know what I mean? Was that active offensively and was also the most efficient you could be potentially because he did not have a turnover and was 11 of 14.
Added 11 amazing. Rebounds as well, by the way.
Yeah, 11. Yeah. I mean, would just say one man. He really was, man. He was kind of a one-man wrecking crew out there. And they had, of course, just, he ended up, having a supporting cast, I guess, but they didn't really need much. And I'll give this to Luka because Luka said after the game, I've talked about this before, when you lose, be a me guy. When you win, be a we guy. And you pointed out in the also in the Horn headlines, he took all the blame. He's like, "Nah, I was on me. I should hit them free throws."
Yeah, should hit them free throws. Couldn't have the turnovers.
And the turnovers. Yeah, that's what you do. When you're a superstar, just say that, even though you had 32, 11, and 11. and 4 steals, by the way.
Yeah, and then we see it on the other side, though, is we see Jason Tatum's been pretty awful in this series. He's been worse than Kyrie Irving has.
He's been bad, yeah.
And he's not been good. And Jaylen Brown was okay, but he also had 8 turnovers in the game. He wasn't playing great basketball either. And the difference for Luka is Luka's playing good basketball. It's just he's not having the help from anybody, especially Kyrie. And that team is built on having the great backcourt, not the great one guy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Kyrie has not shown up yet in this series, and he continues to struggle versus Boston. Now they keep bringing up the numbers. 0-12 in this last 12 games against the Boston Celtics. And yeah, in this game, he just once again, I'm gonna say it was a no-show, but considering what they need from him. He's not up to the task right now. And they can't just, the Mavs they got no shot if Kyrie doesn't pull his weight. In this series, they got no shot. Yeah. Not against the Celtics. There's no chance at all. No. And this thing will potentially be a sweep if Kyrie doesn't have a good game and bounce back in game 3. No, I'm serious, it could be a sweep because I don't think they can win game 3 with Kyrie playing like this.
No, I mean, and the hope is when they go back to Dallas, it helps that, him not being in Boston and maybe that change of pace and getting back onto his home court, maybe that helps a little bit of getting the shooting back into the form it needs to be. Maybe that, change of mindset helps him a little bit. But yeah, it's, because the rest of the team is doing okay. I mean, no one's doing anything, hugely special, but you didn't expect them to. You wanted Derek Lively to be a little bit more effective in this series. He just hasn't been. They've really cut off those passes and those lobs. They've really done a good job because they understand we're okay with Luka scoring points on us. If he's going to hit those little mid-range 2-point shots, we don't care. We'll let Luka hit 2s on us all day, or at least take 2s on us because he's going to miss some too. Instead of throwing lobs for easy dunks, and we're going to take all the dunks away from Kyrie because he is just having a bad series. So we know we can defend him one-on-one and get into his head. And it's the crazy part about it is you wouldn't have expected, you would expect it seeing how this Mavs team's played down the stretch, but this is a Mavs team. The defense has been there. They've been a team that has defensively held the Celtics where they needed to. We talk about it. Under 110 is where you need to hold them. And they've held them under 110 in the last 2 games. And I know it seems like a high number, but that's where you need to hold them. You just have to get to that 110 mark.
Yep.
And I think that's really when you look at what they need to do in Dallas is they have to score. And that's
you're right about that.
That's one of those things. You have to be able to score points. You have to be able to go in and get the points.
It goes back to Kyrie. having a better start or a better finish. One of them. He's got to, like we talked about, he ain't got to be the guy that carries the load the entire time, but there's got to be at one point in the game where he's able to take over. And I guess in the first half, he was 5 of 10 in the first half, but he was 2 of 8 in the second half of that game. And that's really, really kind of needed him. In the first quarter, I mean, I think the Mavs led the entire first quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think
they got off to a decent start. And I think that was probably because Kyrie was still in. He was 5 of 10, like I said, in the first half of that game, but 2 of 8 in the second half. And I think in the series now, what is Kyrie? I think he's like 13 of 37 or something like that.
He has more shots than points, and that's not a good thing.
I believe you're right about that.
That's where it's at. And that Jason Tatum does too. Both of them have more shots than points, and that is not a good stat you ever want to see.
Is 12 of 38 in the series so far. Jason Tatum is. And how about Jason Kidd? This was I don't know when he said this over the weekend before. It was before game 2 though. Jason Kidd trying to play some kind of psychological warfare and saying that he thought Jaylen Brown was the best player on the team.
I saw that. I saw that Jason Kidd said it. Drew Holiday said I don't think he's wrong.
Yeah, no, it was. I don't know if he was. I think he was trying to provide. He's trying to throw out some stuff. Good for Jason Kidd. I mean, whatever it takes.
But this is the problem: we're all focusing. Jason Kidd's focused on their stars of the guys they drafted. The whole reality is Brad Stevens knew that he needed to bring in champions and bring in guys with better, more mental fortitude, and that's what he did with Drew Holiday and Derek White. He brought in guys from other programs, and those guys are playing really, really well for him right now. And they're a great defensive backcourt. And Derek White has one of the big plays of the game, getting the block there at the end on a point where the game is getting close. It could have been cut down on a fast break, and he closes the gap and blocks a shot. And with like a minute and a half left in that game, and it completely changes the complexion because the Mavs get a stop, get the ball going down the other side of the court, and they can't convert. And it turns that game from, oh man, the Mavs might be contesting, and this might, we might get to a last second game, and all of a sudden the momentum completely shifted on that. Those plays that Derek White's had in this of getting blocks and getting big plays and hitting big threes, he's just been, he's been very important. We talked about Drew Holiday and what he has done. Those are additions they made in the last, year and a half to really solidify this team where, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are going to have their little back and forth of who's the best player. But the reality is neither one of them has won game 1 or game 2. Porzingis won game 1. I know Jaylen Brown's part of it. I know Jason Tatum's part of it. But they're not necessarily the biggest factors in either one of these games, 1 or 2. They're a factor because you have to play defense on them. And for the Mavs, they have to pick your poison. And so far, everybody's been poisoned. So normally you try and do it. I mean, like for the Celtics, they say, well, we'll let Kyrie go off, or we'll let Luka go off a little bit. We want to shut down Kyrie completely because we think we can. And then we'll let PJ Washington and Derek Jones shoot some threes, but we want them to shoot threes above the break, not in the corner. So we want to take away the corner threes because it's a higher percentage shot for them. So we want to create those ones above the break. And, they haven't shot well. They shot, one? PJ Washington was 1 for 5. Derek Jones was 0 for 3 in the game. Josh Green was 0 for 3. Maxi Kleber was 0 for 2. So, I mean, their three-point shooting, once again, 6 of 26. They shot, they were doing okay in the first quarter when they were in it. They were out shooting the Celtics from 3, and that changed. And it's one of the reasons why they go down. Like, you have to be able to hit threes. And even if Kyrie's not playing great, if the rest of the team can hit some threes, it could change the fate of the Mavs as well. Because, you have to score points. At this, your defense is there. It's just your offense is gone. And that's really your problem. Is this is a great offensive team at points, but for whatever reason, well, I mean, we know the one big reason is that the Celtics are just a really good defensive team.
Yeah.
But I think this is what you look at of, you're not writing the Mavs off or anything, but this is their offseason now is, well, we're there, but we're where the Celtics were a couple of years ago, where we need veterans now, and we need to add in some guys with some experience, some guys we feel that are going to be a little bit more consistent in these moments than what we've seen right now. And that's kind of what you're missing with the Mavs is you have a lot of young guys that need to perform the best of their career, where Drew Holiday can have that game, but he's had big games before. He's been a champion. He's the second best player on a championship team. Like, he's been in these situations. He's had, he scored a lot of points in games before. He's done those things. So you bring him in. You bring in Derek White, who we knew was on a team and coached by Popovich. And I know I'm a homer on that one, but, was taught in a way to play basketball and, is a guy who's a workhorse guy and came in with a slightly different mindset than what a lot of the Celtics had going into it, where they wanted to be a more offensive team. He brought in more of that hard nose. Kristaps Porzingis being able to be in a position where he doesn't have to be the guy anymore and is just enjoying playing basketball again. And you can see him stepping up and playing better. It's definitely something that the Mavs are not in a position where they need it right now. But if they had a couple more players that with a little bit more experience, they'd be in a better position in the series.
No, I totally agree with you. It's pretty obvious at this point because they haven't even got it to clutch time yet, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
No, I mean we were
5 points.
So they
were
did.
Close.
They got it to 5, and that's when they had that breakout. And if they hit that shot, I believe it takes it to 3.
Okay.
And that would have been the moment of, okay, we're really into it. And they got the steal. They got the stop. They got the ball going the other direction. And Derek White blocks it. They come back down and score on the other end, and it's over. But, yeah, so they got it 2-5 in clutch time. But it was, it was a very short period of time. It was great to see the Mavs keep fighting. It's great to see them fight in these series and stay into it. But your margin for error is so slim when you're trying to fight back. And you're having to play, you're not able to play your bench as many minutes as you want because, Boston didn't play their bench very many minutes. They got, Hauser played 10 minutes, Pritchard played 12, and Porzingis only played 23 because he came up limping at a point. So they pulled him out of the game and there at the end to make sure he didn't hurt himself any worse. But you have to be able to get your guys to perform there at the end and be able to perform consistently throughout the game and not allow to get down, having to fight back from double digits late in the game because it's killing them every time.
It's brutal. Yeah. They're getting closer. Like you said, maybe this is going to culminate to they winning game 3. They figured some things out, but the fear is that, and I'll give, like you said, we got to give the Mavs some credit too defensively. That's got to be something that's frustrating Jason Tatum because they did a good job on him in game 1 too. But yeah, the stars for the Celtics haven't really shown up yet. So that could also really turn this thing into a boat race if they do. But on the other hand, Kyrie has not really shown up yet. If Kyrie shows up, they win one of these games.
Exactly.
Well, maybe they win game 2. I don't know if they win game 1. Game 1 was it was out of reach early. But game 2, if Kyrie has a better game, a better showing, they win game 2. So I'm with you. It's now we're in the situation where it's not an elimination game, but it feels like an elimination game for game 3. It's not an elimination game, but it feels like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you ain't coming back down 0-3.
No, because then it feels like what it was in the Western Conference Finals, where all you're trying to do is not be swept. All you're trying to do in that game 3, in that game 4. If you lose game 3, your game 4 is don't be swept, don't be swept. And it's really hard to have that mindset and then think we can come back and win 4 straight. Your mindset is normally just don't get swept. Don't be a statistic in the bad category.
Yeah, don't be history. Don't make the bad kind of history.
Yeah, you want to be able. If you win game 3, you're right back in it. You're on schedule with home court, and you still got to steal one in Boston. But you've got to win game 3 at this point.
And this will be the most relaxed. Boston, they have a tendency to play with their food and get distracted. This will be the most distracted that they are serious because they're not celebrating yet. But I guarantee you, they're starting to get a little giddy.
Yeah,
starting to get giddy and there are a lot of guys talking about it already. Like, hey man, we're gonna be champions. We're gonna be champions. So
I guarantee
you don't catch them sleeping. This is the one to do it.
I guarantee there are conversations, whether in the locker room or outside of it, of man, it's gonna suck to win the title in Dallas. I'd rather win in Boston.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's some of those. Yes.
And you're like, and that's a conversation you should not be having when you're only up 2-0.
It's human nature though. It's human nature. Somebody there's doing. I guarantee if one leaves, like, shut up, man, shut up right now. Don't talk about it. But it's human nature for it to sink in. And at least the guys are thinking about it. So if you're the Mavs, this is the game for the desperation factor to be way in your face.
Someone's Googling clubs in Dallas to see where they're going to party after the game.
They're like, bro, I might reserve that club for the party, man. I'm thinking about it. You know what I mean? Yeah, people.
We winning this on a Friday night. It's gonna be like
it's human. And considering they, like I said, the Mavs, they haven't made easy work of the Mavs, but they haven't played their best game either, and they're up 2-0 in this series. And they've done it because, like I said, KP in game 1 and then Drew Holiday in game 2. That's Wow. Like I said, we were hoping that the Mavs could catch the Celtics, who somewhat had, maybe there was a flaw that we hadn't seen somehow that hadn't been exposed. The truth is, they really don't have like a tragic flaw. That's the problem. Like there's no real tragic flaw.
No, and I think your most tragic would be the closest thing, which is if you can get them into a game at the end of the game, you had a real shot, because Derek White had to save him at the end of that game. It wasn't Tatum or Brown that was saving him in clutch time. Yeah. And you saw Jason Tatum again, where he turns the ball over, and you're just like, oh, this is not helping your case, because it was a 5-point game, and Tatum turns it over, and you're like, not helping your case, Tatum.
This is not helping Tatum's like legacy. This finals here.
No, I mean, considering the fact the conversation now is Jason Tatum being the best player on this team, that was not what he wanted to have the conversation coming out.
Now you got opposing coaches talking about it and saying it, and you got teammates saying it. Yeah, I mean that's so they can still win, even there. Now I don't think they're a divided locker room, but even with that issue about whose team it is, it doesn't matter. That's how good they are. Yeah. So pretty boring final so far, just because the Celtics are just that damn good.